Hey girl, Marissa here. You are listening to the Codependent Dummy podcast. As a young woman, you have been raised, reinforced, and rewarded for putting the needs of others above your own. Now, in your 20s, you're finding yourself exhausted, exasperated, and enveloped in shit relationships, especially the one you have with yourself. Codependency is a way of being where we put the feelings, wants, and needs of others above our own in an unconscious attempt to meet our own feelings, wants, and needs. Sorry to break it to you, sis, but that is not sustainable. This podcast is to help you undo all that so you can stop playing small and start. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Codependent podcast. Today, I'm sitting with Nicole Smith Levay. Nicole is a professional dancer turned energy coach. She integrates somatic therapies, breathwork, and meditation into her work with folks struggling with anxiety and depression. Using body-centered techniques, Nicole takes a forward-thinking approach to mental health and trauma-informed care. Since founding her practice, Power Within Healing, in 2013, Nicole has since helped hundreds of people overcome their energetic blocks in order to step into their power and live out their purpose. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I'm really excited to talk with you today.
Awesome. All right, so let's start with the typical two. First, Nicole, how do you define codependency?
Yes. I wish I knew this definition earlier in life, but how I define it now is giving away parts of yourself or giving away parts of what you know to be true for you, your honest bits, I'll say, for instead outside validation or people pleasing. And there is this overwhelming sense that you can't be okay unless they're okay, whoever they is. And so that in return, the sense of worth that you have within comes from fixing, saving. Maybe it is under the guise of helping, and maybe healing for people instead of allowing them to do their own healing.
Right.
So that's how I would wrap it up in a nutshell.
Can you give an example of a way that one might give away parts of herself, what she knows to be true, for outside validation? What comes to mind?
Yeah, like even just little self-abandonments. I'll probably talk about this more later, but I didn't know like how to read my own sense of yes or no till probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And that was like a few years into my deep dive healing journey. So it's become something I've been really passionate about because of this exact reason. Like maybe you're saying yes to things that don't 100% feel like a yes, or you're always like negotiating what you want in something just to see that approval or validation from the other person, like, yes, this relationship can remain intact. And so, yeah, it just feels like little self-abandonments, like I didn't want to say yes to that, but I did. Or, yeah, even in the reverse too, I think saying no, even if there is a desire to pursue something, but it feels like there's just too much in the way. And yeah, so that's the word blocks I use in my bio, is like feels like the word that encompasses this energetic lock between thoughts we have from the past, feelings we may have repetitively, presently, as well as like sometimes even physically too. Like there's something wound up in that in our body, like the
Mm.
knot in the stomach, or um, saying yes with a smile, even when that's not how you're honestly feeling on the inside. So it might even have correlation with like different somatic body part symptoms too.
Right. As you were talking, I appreciate, right, sometimes we say yes when we mean no, but also sometimes we say no when we mean yes. And the thought came to mind, I attend support groups, and sometimes the leader will start, they'll introduce the meeting, welcome, and they say, who wants to begin? And maybe I really want to begin, but I'm so self-conscious and not wanting to look like I'm self-centered, selfish, like impatient, needy. So I'll wait. And then also, I don't know, the thought came to mind like when I was in graduate school, and or really all school, but graduate school came to mind where the professor would ask a question and I would know the answer, but I wouldn't want to look like a know-it-all or a brown noser or a suck up. And so, yeah, I would wait for someone else and maybe they got it wrong. And I'm like, no, that's not it. I couldn't. So I do appreciate how it could be a yes when we mean no, or even kind of saying no to ourselves
Hmm.
when it is a yes. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, and either way it's like what I would call a misalignment. And so in those situations, like a part of your energy like kind of get pulled away from the center of you. So um yeah, I mean I think a lot of your listeners are familiar with like different types of therapy and stuff. So, I'm not a parts work expert, but when I learned about parts work in my graduate school program, because it really was like an umbrella program of somatics and you got introduced to lots of different theories and techniques, I was like, oh yeah. Because as a
Mhm.
dancer, do you know those moments like when suddenly you're like, something just clicked, like it's an aha. As a dancer, I always felt when I would improvise that I would try to give those voices, or like you said, the one that's like, I don't want to be a brown nose, or I don't want to be seen as a know it all. I would try to give them space in like movement to be
Mm.
expressed and seen. And so it gave me a piece of my vitality back because I never really spoke those things out or said those things, or, move through that block to who cares if I'm seen as a brown noser, right? But in dance, I would let myself kind of enact that part fully and take it on
Mm.
and see how that felt, and give myself some space to integrate it, and it would give me energy back. So
Right.
when I learned about parts work and how that was done more verbally and with your thoughts and your emotions, I was like, of course, yes, yes, that will help us
Mhm.
feel more whole and more in alignment with where we're moving, where we're headed,
Right. Right.
as opposed to where we're coming from.
Yeah. And focusing on your journey specifically before diving into your specialty,
Hmm.
do you have a codependent experience from your own life that you can share with us?
Yeah, this is a hard one. I knew you would ask this.
Mm.
I feel like I don't have one. I have a lot. I hope that's okay to just kind of speak about it more generally. Um, I grew up uh, being codependent, but I didn't know that that is what it was called. And I think it was an attempt, in my adult years, all of the codependent relationships that I had with, say, boyfriends or friends or even bosses, coworkers. I think it was an unconscious attempt to like heal and repair some ruptured, repetitively codependent cycles with both my parents and my brother.
Mhm.
So yeah, so boyfriends who tended to be insecure, unavailable, and had addictive personalities. Three very, big emotional relationships. And I definitely, of course, wasn't my best self in trying to fix, save, and heal and help. Um, this was all pre kind of my what I would call my spiritual awakening and like my deep dive into therapy, not just um, you know, uh, like surface level is where I needed to start before you deep dive.
Mhm.
But yeah, friends with explosive rage, like very critical and explosive rage, and also bosses who were just unavailable. But it all really turned around when I was in my late 20s, um, started to turn around. I'm
Mhm.
38 now. And what it was a combination of was doing breath work and meditation from the Kundalini lineage pretty regularly on top of my
What's
regular.
Kundalini lineage for
You don't know
us?
Kundalini?
Well,
Okay,
just
yeah.
like the 101 for myself and the listeners.
It is an active form of meditation and breath work that really focuses on the chakra system or chakras, the energy center systems, as like literal nerve plexuses. And you do different breathing patterns and different arm positions, different mental focuses, different hand mudras, and they create these little openings and releases and integrations in through and in the chakra system. So
Mhm.
I felt very into it because of what I was saying previously. Dance, that kind of dance improvisation was the only way that I had therapy. Then I started regular talk therapy. Then I began seriously studying Kundalini yoga and training in it at the same time that I met a somatic therapist who
Wow.
did some of this inner child work and parts work with me. And then I recognized, oh, yeah, this is like pieces of me coming back to myself. And I feel a lot less scattered and a lot less drained. And I'm going to stop abandoning myself and giving away all of my energy to, see that someone else is okay and instead focus on me, focus on taking care of
Mhm.
me. And that's actually not selfish and it's kind of less harmful in a way, than trying to help everybody else when my cup isn't even full.
Mhm.
So it's definitely not like over that healing process either. Like I said, I only learned what a boundary was 8 years ago. But I love to, in my classes and sessions and courses to just be like with everybody in the process too, and you know both be able to teach how to contain these things and also be open and honest and vulnerable enough to like speak to my own experience and present moment experience of it as well.
Mhm. Wow. And I do hear the broad overview of codependency and the broad overview of your healing journey. I'm curious, like, does any like specific
Mm,
difficulty with the boundary come to mind for like what it used to look like and
first
what it
now.
looks like now? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But so I'm very into astrology too. That was one part of Kundalini that was very attractive. And
Mm.
I don't know if you know, but there's a full moon peaking tomorrow morning. So it's like big emotional stuff. So I actually was reflecting on it earlier this morning, some of those boyfriend situations.
Mm.
I guess like when one of them were, very overwhelmed and specifically like disappeared or, you know, literally like went missing. And I was like, what happened? That I would,
I dated him too. Yeah.
yeah, I think I heard that one.
It's like,
Yeah. And then
where'd
I
you
was like, how did
go?
I date three in a row? Is a scratch head like, yeah, that I would go further into panic, anxiety, leaving myself, trying to fix it, trying to figure out, like, just texting a number that's not responding. At that point, we didn't have like so many platforms and things, but I imagine if it was now, that I would be checking their Facebook and Instagram and all of those things, which just makes you feel like you're totally leaving your body. And
Mm.
I would just, yeah, I would crumble. I would crumble.
Mm.
I would um, just wait for them to come back to feel like I was whole again. Now I'm happily married now, and I do not feel that we're in a codependent relationship. I think we're interdependent. We help each other a lot through our weaknesses and things. So thankfully, in romantic relationships, I move past that. But I do feel like if this happens with, like, say, a collaborator or someone I'm working really intimately with, that they disappear, or even in client stuff, like, countertransference is real, and I am like, wow, my space between, like, something that feels very old as like a reaction that I could take or a choice I could make here, versus my response in this moment, and then I'm going to respond differently, and I'm going to take care of myself. I'm going to
Mm.
talk to the parts of me that are feeling abandoned, or that it was my fault or whatever, and I'm going to repair that, and I'm going to surrender the rest of, what happens next, and we'll
Mm.
wait and see. And, like, I think I am still overly patient in those kind of situations. Like, maybe if you ask me 10 years from now, the first red flag like that, where someone doesn't do or say what they say they're going to and they go missing, maybe that's like, this isn't a good, healthy relationship for me to be in, even if there's a lot of other good stuff here.
Right.
um yeah, maybe that'll stop there, but usually I give people like one chance. And then
Yeah.
after that I will, but definitely I take care of myself first in those moments, versus, like I'm doing, the people who are just listening are probably like, why does this woman take such big pauses? Because I'm like dancing right now. I'm like clawing. That's what it would feel like somatically, that I would be like, come back to me, help, where are you?
Mm.
Yes, if you're okay, then I'll be okay. So yeah, I think that's one
Yeah.
example.
Wow. It's powerful. Yeah. I
That's
remember that, the grasping. Yeah. The clawing.
mhm.
Yeah. Insane. And like you said, abandoning, or you would totally leave your body. Mhm.
Yeah, it would just be like panic, um and like being like, what I focus, coming from dance into psychology. I was a bachelor's in dance and
Mm.
dance teaching, and I always approach things like I wanted them to be therapeutic, but I didn't really understand the therapeutic process because I hadn't really gone through it myself. So coming from that into the somatic psychology world, training, I do find myself very drawn to the physical stuff first, which is great that this is like YouTube too, because I think a lot of what I share and teach is nonverbal in a way.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I think that's like the first thing we can tell, um, about perhaps this is codependent, like, what is happening to our physical posture and shape in this relationship? Like, do we
Mm.
feel like we suddenly are not at our best? Like, do I feel like I have to like over effort and hunch my shoulders more? Do I feel my voice change a bit? Do I feel like all of the open hearted, vital energy in my belly and heart suddenly gets like zapped away, like, and it gets sucked in? Like, that's an indicator that perhaps you're, yeah, repeating some sort of generational, intergenerational trauma, and yet your mind hasn't caught up to it yet, but your body is so animalistic and primal that it already is like warning you, like, I'm smelling danger, and what are we going to do with it? How we can go many different ways in this adventure. Um we could remove ourselves and take care of ourselves, we could say the thing that we're scared to say in a very, of course, kind way, compassionate way. So many codependents are so self-sacrificing and so accommodating, like they would never speak to someone, rudely or abrasively, but just even asking for what we need makes our voice shake and makes us feel like we're mean or that it could be taken abrasively. Um, yeah, and then from there, how does your body react to that moment when you're in the shape and then you do something different than what you would normally do? And then what happens when you receive the feedback from the other person? And usually it's in the receiving phase that I get a lot more information of like, okay, now I see where this is headed. And if the person can meet me, we can keep, traversing this relationship together. Um, yeah, I'll pause there.
Okay. Well, yeah, I want to hear more about getting to that point, but prior in that healing journey,
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, what does happen to our energy? Right, we've already sort of touched on this. If we tend to be codependent in our relationships, so we talked about totally leaving our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
right, our like heart chakra, heart center closing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what else have you noticed? Yeah, with our energy.
I think the most accessible one might be around just general like vibes, and if our energy is a battery level that like we just keep leaving feeling like our battery got like really drained really quickly. Vibes is so loose. But I know that like, people are very into good vibes, bad vibes, like vibe killer. Like you feel just like a big shift in your own personal state of energy. So that's how I give energy something more grounded than just what's energy, right? Because we can't really see it, but it's like our state, our mood, our emotions, and our physical body all shifts. Um, and then like more into those shapes, like when you leave a situation with like more somatic tension than you had going into it, where is that tension? um do your interactions with this person cause like either racing thoughts or just like a complete like confusion, lost sense of self? I think it's so important when we feel confused to just name that like we feel confused, and let's just hang out there for a second and not rush to be on the other person's sense of understanding or our own as well. um, Giving yourself permission and time to like parse that out is really key.
Right.
So yeah, like what you get pulled into and pulled out of, I think that's where the energy tends to show up in codependent relationships. Also, if you're like spending an abnormal amount of time focusing on the other person even when you're not with them. And I guess what's abnormal, that it's like taking away from what you need to do in your day to day, right? I guess that's like kind of the basic definition of addiction too. Like, is it interrupting, right? Is this focus so intensely on this person interrupting your work, your other relationships, your care of yourself, things like that? Um, and it's okay to not, yeah, I just want to like give permission. I sometimes when I feel like I talk on podcasts that I might be making someone feel really bad about themselves, I want to say that it's okay to notice yourself in that place. It's like a really empowering point to begin from. I think that's the first stage, is like getting out of our own confusion and denial about what's happening and be like, hey, wow, this is problematic. I want to do something differently here.
Right.
And I'm not sure that I can do it all on my own. Like, what sort of supports are there? And that's why I was saying to you before I got on the show that I just love this podcast so much. I love that you went forward with this theme in particular, like really specifically, because you're speaking to so many who probably feel like besides, is it Melody Beattie's book? Is that how you say her last name?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, besides her books and maybe Codependence Anonymous, there isn't a place for free resources for people to be like, hey, I'm not alone. And I really don't know what to do in that moment when I realize, oh, this is problematic and this is like repeated for me. And where do I go from here? So thank
Right.
you for bringing us all together.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, going back to energy,
Hmm.
um, yeah, reflecting on my friendships, boyfriends, coworkers, bosses, etc., those relationships, yeah, family,
Hmm.
um, yeah, my energy. I This kind of ties into moving on to breath work, but I remember, I mean, even your definition, I'm not okay if you're not okay. And so if I'm in the presence of someone who's not okay, like there goes my energy because now I'm officially not okay.
Right.
And yeah, I think like, yeah, like images of just being really like hunched over and laboring a lot, doing a lot of emotional labor
Hmm.
and leaving interactions feeling less secure about the relationship than I was prior to spending time with them. When before we got together, I was like, oh, yeah, I don't know if they like me, or I don't know if I think he wants to break up or whatever. We'd get together, right? I'd make plans with a friend or meet with a boss or a boyfriend, hoping that that would help me feel more secure. And then,
Hmm.
yeah, and then I'd leave feeling more drained and less grounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And then the longer we allow ourselves or are unable really to get out of that cycle, then we're somewhat enabling their dysfunction too.
mm, say more
So,
about that.
yeah, just that if that person isn't receiving that you're looking to repair or to build more security in this attachment, they're not picking up on that, and instead they're leaning more into the ego mind tricks of like that they're right or you're the I mean there's so many different ways. I feel like I'm speaking too generally, but if we let them keep going on with that and then just like, okay, I'll just kind of absorb all this and I'll process it and I'll figure it out and then I'll come back better next time and then maybe we'll be more secure next time, then they're not doing their energy work. It's never
Mm.
being sent back to them like, now you take care of this. And
Wow.
sometimes after asking for what we need, which is setting healthy boundaries, if that doesn't happen, unfortunately, really the next option is that you have to step away from that person, that
Mm.
relationship. um, and that was very hard for me romantically
Right.
and took a long time. And then I would still keep reaching back out. And it wasn't until a friend was like, I think you do really much better when you don't reach back out. Like, let it live for a while. And actually, one of my yoga teacher trainers during that period I was talking about, that I like to call like an awakening of like, oh my God, I've been seeing everything through this like filter, that I'm not good enough and that I have to help everyone else just to be okay. One of my teachers said, it seems like you've hopped from relationship to relationship or gone back to other relationships. It's like all I wanted to do was fall in love and like find a secure relationship. And they just recommended that I take a year and to see it as an act of yoga, of discipline, like a
Mm.
spiritual discipline, like instead of just abstinence because you're doing something wrong, you have to do it right now. It was more like, can you really just see this as like a year of healing? And the more aware you are of how the other person is like your balm to things that you're not addressing within yourself, the more you're able to address it yourself, and heal it and move on from it. And I did.
Mhm.
And that's when I met my husband.
Wow.
10 or 11 months into that year. It wasn't a full year, but I was complaining to someone about being lonely. And now I feel really ready to be in a relationship. And I said I had never tried online dating, and OkCupid was new then. And I went on OkCupid with an open heart, and I saw my husband's profile, and I was like, wow, this seems like the guy I've been journaling about for years. And I met him, and it was just very calm.
Mhm.
It was very calming and soothing. All my other relationships up until that point, it felt like this magnetic thing. Like it was like this very big thing that I had to follow to move into. And with him, it was like, I kept asking myself, is this too good to be true? Is the other shoe going to drop, But I had just done that whole year of like self-reflection. And I was like, I'll be okay either way. I
Mhm.
will. And I really enjoy my time with this person. So I'm going to be very present with them. And we took it really slow. We both were healing. We took it really slow. And yeah, now we've been together for, I think our first date was in 2011. And he was my third date on the app, which was a blessing because I've heard that it can be really rough. So
Mhm.
um, yeah.
Yeah. Mhm. All right. Well, hearing more about your
Mm-hmm.
specialty,
Mm-hmm.
Nicole, how can breath work, somatic therapy, and meditation help those struggling with codependency?
Yep. So this is where the name Power Within Healing came from, is using these modalities particularly um, to put something more in your control that is you, right? How we're breathing, how we're regulating our emotional states. And it brings our energy out of reaction and responding in dysregulated states or triggered states. And it instead, breath work and somatic therapy and meditation helps us learn what our regulated states feel like, what our calm, grounded center is like, and not just when we're on the mat that one time in class, but to get to know it more, to practice it
Mm.
more, to see when it's there and when it's not there. And inevitably, all these activities and practices, whether you're doing them a couple minutes a day or just, you know, more casually, or if you're doing a 1 hour class a week, they do give us more choice in how we respond in these cyclical patterns that return for us. So,
Mhm.
it's, I think anything that is sensitive to where we've been or the struggles we've had, whether you call it trauma informed or trauma sensitive, it's like slow and steady wins the race. It's gradual. And so a lot of the modalities I use are quite potent and they're powerful, but I like to teach them in a way where I make them very beginner friendly and like dip your toe in and like let's just do it for a couple minutes and let's talk about what just shifted. Then there's options to, hang your legs in the pool and feel the cold water, and those are like the once a week classes. And then there's more like hop in, maybe you do some sort of immersion situation with a group or individually. um, and then there's opportunities really for some deep dives. I host transformational retreats once a year.
Mm.
I have one coming up. I don't know when this will air, and we only have one spot left, but we walk away every time, just uh, everyone feeling this sense of, wow, that was really good for me personally, but also so refreshing to know it's not just me that has a lot
Mm.
of these struggles and stresses and navigates the healing process similarly. So it's pretty cool. And I bring in different teachers and guests and stuff to bring different perspectives in. But generally, whether people identify as codependent or empaths or just have always recognized that they're sensitive, it helps them feel more energized and aligned to do what they're called to do versus, repeating the whole thing again and again. There's
Right.
something to be uncovered there. So yeah, it helps us regulate our nervous system, simply
Mm-hmm.
put, but also in a gradual way, so that the changes and shifts become permanent. We get
Mm-hmm.
to know that version of ourselves and step into her or him or them.
Right. Other thoughts on how breath work, somatic therapy, or meditation help those struggling with codependency?
I think besides putting like turning the attention that we put outward back inward, power within healing.
Mm.
All of these are self-reflective and like generating energy from within. um, I think that they also just help us be more present with what is actually happening. I think that's like a big question that is part of all somatic therapies. There's so many different modalities, but like, what is happening right now? What do you
Mm.
notice right now? Breath work, meditation, active meditations, and somatics help us unwind and give ourselves permission to go slower, be more curious about the reality of this moment and how much responsibility we can actually take for the dynamic too, what we're bringing
Mm.
into it. And is what we perceive happening actually happening completely, or is it remnants of a past self, of a former self, looking for some understanding and integration and some release and some permission to just accept that this is how I have acted or responded in a situation like this, but this time I am feeling that I have more energy and agency to make a different choice and move forward from there.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And I've been meditating because I was trying to please my therapist. And also, it helped. But I have been meditating since I was 20. Different types of meditation. Going to meditation circles and workshops and classes. And I meditate most mornings, a couple times like I'll miss, but really, really, like it has been a staple in my morning routine.
Yeah.
And also, I know my patients strive to meditate. I know listeners know that it's good for them and they get the apps or they set the resolution. But I think somatic therapy, like that is more specialized. Breath work, that involves some training. Meditation is something that we arguably could all do right now if we
Yeah.
decided to.
Mm-hmm.
So, what are some strategies you recommend for those who don't think they can meditate, start and stop, have difficulty?
I love that. Normalizing that it's not that it's not hard, or it's not natural, right? Like our minds are in some ways meant to meditate to find peace. I mean, it's like a common human thing. Everyone is seeking, I think, on some level, peace and happiness and love. So why it can feel hard is for several reasons. And also, keeping up with it is hard at first for it to become a habit. I think everything you just shared right there totally normalizes the experience. And I love to tell this story on podcasts that because I was a professional dancer, I could do those yoga classes where you were sweating for 2 hours long and putting your toes over your head to your nose, holding handstand for 5. I could do all the postures. I could focus myself enough in a physical posture to do something that kind of looked like a trick. But then at the end of class, when they would ask us to just follow our breath and meditate, the mind is everywhere. My mind was. And I thought, there's something wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone else looks so calm and peaceful. But really, you're like building a muscle of being able to sit with the thoughts and the space within the thoughts and not judge them and let them go. And so, things that we can do all the time is just notice when our mind is wandering and maybe rewind to what began that wandering. And how you can do that is like, wow, I haven't been really present with what's been happening for a few minutes or so. Um, let me just like look around my space a little bit. Let me like really see what I'm seeing. Let me just focus on one thing for a while, especially something that feels nourishing, like a photo of someone you love or a poster of your favorite band or something. Just take a few deep breaths, that's it. Just pause, take a few deep breaths and orient yourself to right here, right now. Right here, right now, you're just breathing and looking at something, and that's it. So that's like mindfulness in motion. Also, grounding is a real basic technique too, because most of the time our feet are towards the floor, whether we're in a chair or standing. I'm really just taking the time to notice all the intricacies of our weight dropping into our feet. Right now, I'm sitting on the floor, so you can also do this through your seat or your feet. But that you imagine sending like breath and all of the tingling and the thoughts and the feelings. And you just imagine like almost like when you shake the snow globe and then the snow settles, you imagine that snow passing through your body. It's like a body scan too technique. You just imagine all that sensation going down into your seat and your feet. You can even press your hands into the floor if you're near the floor, or like your tabletop, or into your own thighs, actually, is probably more grounding. And that's just like, here I am, I'm here now. And in this moment, I feel safe. I feel safe enough to ground. So that's a meditation in motion kind of thing as well. But yeah, I found more success in not guided meditations and mindfulness, but in active meditation techniques like the ones I still teach, Kundalini, and I teach 3-part breathwork journeys. And why I found more success in those, meaning I found more space between my thoughts, I accessed deeper levels of my meditative mind, I think was because I was such a busy thinker. And it just bothered me so much that like I can do yoga poses, but I can't sit in stillness for 2 minutes. And it would make me feel worse afterwards. I'd be so triggered that I couldn't do it. And the active techniques gave me tasks to focus on. Hold your arms like this, bring your eyes like that, count your breath. That's the one that's become famous, the box breath. That's a great one. Someone was having a
What's a
panic
box
attack.
breath for
For
anyone
people
who
who don't
doesn't?
know, yeah, a loved one was having a panic attack before they needed to give a speech at a wedding, and I was like, "We don't want to teach you something." So I got them oriented and grounded to like, you're okay, and this is normal that this would happen right now. This is, like, and we have to self-validate ourselves in those moments of panic too. But box breath is basically, you do it with your eyes opened or closed, and you'll inhale, if you can, through your nose for 4 counts. And then you just suspend like a big full balloon for 4, 3, 2, 1. As you exhale, try to empty all the breath out gradually out the nose for 3, 2, 1. And without gasping for more breath, just chill here. 4, 3, 2, 1. If you get more comfortable and you're not driving, you can close your eyes and you can even envision this box being drawn as you inhale, like the line goes up the left side of the box. As you suspend nice and full, you sit up a little taller, the line goes across the top of the box. As you exhale, the line travels down the right side of the box. And as you hold, just relax, no breath in, it travels along the bottom of the box. So that's box breath 4, 4, and 4. But yeah, basically anything where there was a task for me to do while meditating, it calmed my mind enough that when I wasn't doing those practices, I was more able to access this new place I found. It's like, oh yeah, remember when I felt like that doing these active techniques, and I could find them in moments of trigger. I could find them, uh, you know, whenever I wanted. Some of them are like just 3 minutes. 3 minutes of box breath can make a huge difference. So that's what I want to say to people who are having trouble meditating. One, you're not alone. While it is challenging, it won't be hard forever. It just has to become a habit first. You have to build the muscle and maybe just try different styles, because it just could be that you haven't found something that works for you.
Right.
And start small. Just dip your toe in first. You don't need to go to a 5-day silent meditation retreat to learn. That is counterproductive and will probably only result in not good results. So yes, start slow and get tastes of how, wow, I do have this peaceful, calm, loving center. I didn't know it. I didn't give myself enough chance to practice and try to tap into it. And it's gradual, but it's available for all of us. I tell people it's their birthright. Peace is your birthright. Calmness is your birthright. I know the total other extreme, and I know how painful it is to feel stuck there. So just trust that it's gradual, but you're going to get there, and it's all in due time, in a way that your system can really digest what's happening.
Right. And for those codependents integrating meditation, right? If they do seek somatic therapy or breath work, what are the benefits of that? Like long term, like what can these newbies look forward to if they do commit to integrating tools like this?
I think being able to receive what you're hoping to call in your life, what you're desiring to, whether that's a stable relationship or, a good job, or to do the thing you've always dreamed of doing, but everybody told you couldn't. Like, you're more able to hold that reality happening. Also, just more generally, not so specific, more confidence. I don't want to say that you'll like never have fear or something. I think fear is a part of human existence, but you'll be more grounded in the face of fear. It won't totally consume you. And if you're someone who's prone to, shutting down and isolation and giving up on things and quitting, I find time and time again that these practices give you the vitality to keep up and see it through. Um, you know, uh, you're going to meditate on your good days, your bad days, and in between. Like that's what I tell folks too. It's like, if we only meditate when we feel good, that's not meditation.
Right.
Meditation is being with ourselves when you're so distracted, when it just feels like you'd rather be doing anything else, and everything in between when it feels like totally blissful. That's working your muscle. That when you show up on those days where you don't want to do it, the result pays off the next time you're feeling that kind of overwhelm in your system, it's like, oh my gosh, and here too, I could feel peaceful, loving, and centered. And here
Right.
too, I could feel like I'm not a victim of my circumstance. I have a choice here. And here too, I love myself a little bit more. I understand why I'm responding the way I am.
Mhm.
So those things.
Yeah, that resonates. I agree with all of that.
Mhm.
As a consequence to, yeah, my access to that in my
Mhm.
healing
Mhm.
journey. So,
Yeah. Oh, good.
mhm. All right. Well, last question. In addition to um, things you've done to help you along,
Mhm.
what are some of your favorite self-care practices?
It's so funny. I I I have a toddler now, so sometimes little things feel so luxurious, like, and they really shouldn't be self-care, just like having a very long shower and like grooming myself for a while feels amazing. But I
Mm,
really, being someone who came from dance background and more uh, unhealthy relationship with food, I really love taking the time to scroll Pinterest and find, healthy, nourishing, balanced foods and then like seek out the ingredients and put them together. I'm not a very good cook, but I just like to let myself be messy in that place. Um, and I do receive as much body work and energy work as I facilitate too. I mean,
mm.
after all these years of doing it, I have to. You have to keep up with it, walk your talk. You're never done. I don't feel like I'll ever be done doing these disciplines myself. Um,
What type of body work?
Different kinds. The kind of massage that helps my um, different disabilities I have in my legs and my spine. Um, Thai yoga massage is my favorite. It's very gentle. It's like
Mm,
basically assisted stretching. Um, that one feels like it does what it needs to get my energy flowing without like going too deep into the tissues. But then on an energy level, I love something called Body Talk, which is a system that from the outside probably looks similar to a combination of EFT and Reiki. Yeah, with maybe some like inner child affirmations or something.
mm.
So I do those two regularly. And then
EFT tapping or the emotionally focused therapy?
yeah, the tapping.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
two,
they
which
both,
is so
there is
confusing.
two. I just remembered that in this moment.
Yeah.
Yes, more
Yeah.
the tapping,
Physical, yeah, tapping.
physical, yeah.
Got it.
And journaling. I don't journal as much as I facilitate journaling and contemplation and
Mm,
all my moon circles and my retreats. It's like a big part of it. I love to come up with the prompts for them, but I don't journal myself until, it's like certain times of the year or something. I'm like, okay, it
mm,
feels like there's a lot of thoughts here that I need to just get on the paper as unstructured as possible, and then maybe I'll do some more prompts from some other facilitator or teacher, which will stretch me a little bit.
mm.
But yeah, I love to journal too.
Awesome. Well, yeah, just touching on the body work, I have become more and more conscious of how fundamental it is.
Hmm.
And like I thought I knew it like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, a year ago, but like I just continue to learn like how neglectful of my body I am, despite all the things I'm doing to tend to it. And so in 2023, I it's like a New Year's resolution and I feel self-conscious like sharing it, but I joined like a massage
Membership.
club. Yes, because I have the means
Mm-hmm.
I've budgeted for it. And also I'm great at thinking I need a massage and never, or just rarely going. And I think I hold so much, and I've held so much of my codependency throughout my body. And this is one way, like, where I'm being accountable to myself and like, okay, I like actually have to get a massage every month.
I am
So,
so happy to hear that you're setting that time aside and you're doing it. Yeah, I really find like, especially if you're a helper and a healer, and you're helping others and you're carrying a lot. Um, yeah, those moments where you just completely surrender and receive are really important. And
mm,
it's almost like you could have some somatic therapy for yourself too, even if the massage therapist is not asking you questions or trying to evoke anything, just by someone holding your body and making space for energy and breath to move there, you might have that thought of like, oh, it's time for me to put that down, or
mm,
it's, I can move forward with this. I do feel more capable. Going back to what we started with at the top of our yeses and nos, just that monthly check-in with your tissues, your body tissues, it's like your mind and your feelings in that massage will have its own little somatic coaching therapy for itself.
mm.
And that's so important. And then go in your car and write down things, because I always forget as soon as I leave. I'm like, what song was that? I remember I had some deep insight and then I didn't
Mm.
write it down. So yeah,
That sounds
it's good.
good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Nicole. If people want to find out more about you, where can they go?
I'm most active on Instagram and Facebook at Nicole Smith Levay, NicoleSmithlevay. And I do have a gift for your listeners. My virtual studio membership, we do 4 live sessions a month,
Mm,
2 breathwork moon circles, 2 Kriya and meditation classes in the Kundalini lineage. So um, those all exist within Soul Fitness Society. I also do interviews like this with other healers. I do lots of fun ecstatic dance practices, like just shake your body out kind of things. It's all on one platform. And yes, it's called Soul Fitness Society. So for your listeners, if you'd like to give it a try, like I said with the meditation, it takes practice. So I wanted to set something up so that people could give it at least a 3-month window.
mm.
So if you use the code codependummy, spelled like the podcast, you'll get your first month of 3 free.
Thank you. All
Yeah, you are so welcome. And then we'll just
right.
put the link in the notes.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. This
Yeah.
has been
Okay.
great, Marissa. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next week.
Hey girl, it's Marissa again. I'm not like a regular podcaster, I'm a cool podcaster, right? Thank you for listening and staying till the end. You can find me on Instagram at Therapy with Marissa. Email me, Marissa at codependummy.com. Check out codependummy.com for more information on the show. And baby girl, a subscribe, rating, and review would be much appreciated. Till next time, I want you to remember, if you are feeling unseen, I see you. If you are feeling unheard, I hear you. And if you think that you don't matter, know that you matter to me. I want you to go out there so you can stop playing small and start taking up space, you dummy. And now, the disclaimer. Girl, this is not therapy and I am not your therapist. This podcast is designed to provide accurate and authoritative information in regards to the subject matter covered. It is given with the understanding that neither the host, publisher, or guests are rendering any legal, clinical, or other professional service. If you want or need a professional, please